This episode of Hammerlock Podcast with Tyson Dux is brought to you by Hammerlock Apparel. Visit hammerlockapparel.com today. On today's episode, we talk about the epic battle of David versus Goliath, how Buddy Rogers uses heel tactics to perfection, and what's old is new again. It's a double episode. First, Buddy Rogers versus Haystacks Calhoun, followed by Shawn Michaels versus Yokozuna. Let's go! What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm Scotty D here once again with our good friend Tyson Dux. And man, I hope you are well rested because you have some heavy lifting to do on this episode.
You know what? That's the best segue ever, Scotty. It's the best segue because indeed we do. Today is all about the David versus Goliath. So we got the giants, these big Haas type individuals versus the smaller individual in these matches. One is going to be the small guy is going to be the heel. The other one's is going to be the baby face. We get a little bit of contrast today. We're doing a whole bunch. We're all over the place today, Scott, and it's going to be a good episode because I finally get to use one of the Chicago Film Archive. It's from the Chicago International Amphitheater, and it's a great look back, blast of the past. I've actually subscribed and I watch a lot of these matches because it is so cool to see stuff from the 60s when wrestling to a lot of people was very, very real. You know, how did you was this your first undertaking with going way back in time, Scott? What did you feel about it?
Not the first, but you got me onto these old Chicago Film Archives matches a couple months ago, and I've kind of gone through and watched a bunch of them because they're, it's old school wrestling, and the filming is actually pretty good. The quality for that, for being, 50, 60, 70 years ago, the film quality is really good. So you can really buckle down and watch a bunch of these matches at once. Why don't you kind of let everyone know what we're watching today?
Well, today is a classic one, and I'm a huge fan of Buddy Rogers. So we're going to go with the Nature Boy, Buddy Rogers, versus Haystack Calhoun, which was a sideshow attraction back in the day. This gigantic human being, like this massive human being in there against one of the greatest heels of all time, being Buddy Rogers. By far one of the greatest legends of wrestling. His stuff, I like, to me, because I'm a connoisseur, I guess. I love old history. I love wrestling back in the day. I love past history. And Buddy Rogers is one of those dudes that is just so good. Legendary. And to me, his stuff holds up. It still holds up to today. Maybe it's just because today's stuff is a little bit more theatrical and gymnastic-y, and his stuff was more legitimate. Maybe that's why. I'm not quite sure why it holds such a special place with me, but it is really sweet. This one is set in April 14th, 1961. I'll let you do the rest of the history on this one, Scott, because I know you nuts. I know you know all this stuff. But yeah, the Buddy Rogers, Haystack Calhoun. This is what we're doing today.
Right on. So yeah, if you want to watch along with us, you can find it currently on YouTube. The channel is called Chicago Film Archives Presents Wrestling from Chicago, and it's called Haystack Calhoun versus Buddy Rogers, 4/14/1961. And I'll give everyone a couple seconds to kind of get that lined up. And while you do, like you mentioned, the classic wrestling and Buddy Rogers, things like that, it's just, to me, the most interesting thing to watch is how the fans and how everything is presented. It reminds me of a boxing match more than what we call today sports entertainment. This looks like a real contest. It looks like they treat it exactly like they would other sports. The fans are respectful and dressed to the nines. You notice when you look at the crowd, and everything is just presented in a way that is undeniably a competitive deal. There's no extra stuff that doesn't need to be there. It comes across perfect to me when you watch it. It's really interesting to go back and look at that.
It's funny, Scott, how far we've gone the other way. So I always like balance. I don't feel as though like wrestling has to be this old school anymore. Don't get me wrong. I love this stuff. And whereas a lot of people are like, oh, you're just, you're old and you've experienced a lot and like you can't keep up. Guys, I can keep up and I could go faster and harder than most. So it's not a question of if I can keep up or if it's becoming silly and it makes no sense. It's nonsensical. And wrestling traditionally is like real. It's a realism-based contest. It's a combative contest. And we've taken away the realism, which leaves no room for the magic now. There is no room for magic because it's all silly. So I don't believe that it has to go back this far, but I'm just looking to educate and hope that people will see and maybe bring a little bit more balance. Bring it back a little bit. Dial it back, fellas. Dial it back. The one thing that I will say about this, Scott, before we get going, is the guy that's calling the match and the announcer is awesome. Anytime you hear words like tally-ho and the good old boys, and he's talking about the good old boys and stuff like that, I absolutely, you got to appreciate the old slang in the 60s. Is a tremendous thing. And you're totally right about people in the crowd are very classy. They're all dressed up. They're all smoking. It's a completely, it's like a whole different world out there. And it's fun to watch. And the one thing I'm super excited about is I can't wait for my edited picture once this podcast is done to have Buddy Rogers style hair, because that would be sweet.
Yeah. Right on. I love that, how he's cut the hair like combed perfectly when he comes to the ring.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. So, all right. I'm assuming everyone's got everything lined up now. Without further ado, we will count it down from 5, and then we'll hit play at the same time and get into this bad boy. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play. And it looks like it takes a minute to get going there. There we go.
Yeah, it's going to take a minute, and they're going to start in the ring. Classic, though. Classic suit and tie, bow tie, the way a person should be. Now, they're not going to do the entrances like they normally do today, because a lot of it, they didn't come out to music. A lot of the times, they would just walk to the ring, so why wouldn't you just start them in the ring, right? Yeah. The best part about this, and you'll see in a lot of these Chicago classics that they have, is they'll see the babyface will be signing autographs while the announcing's going on, which is tremendous. I love it. He's there like Haystacks with pen and paper, signing autographs to the people, and it's just fabulous. Yeah. The physique on Buddy Rogers, by the way, with the title, he's got the title belt. His physique is tremendous. I love that old school physique. That's just a man that works really hard, doesn't need all the crazy machines. He's a dude that just could do hundreds of push-ups and sit-ups. That's the kind of classic look people look for when they look at old school wrestling, which is really sweet to get into. This is going to be a lot of fun. A thing that you'll notice about this too, back in the day, NWA days, and when a guy had the title and it was a main event, it used to be 2 out of 3 falls. This one is going to be a 1 fall, and it's only 20 minutes long, or it's scheduled for 20 minutes. Yep. So that's a little different. And if that catches you off guard, because back in the day, so we're talking the 60s, if you watch Thez and Rogers, or Thez and Caponche, or whoever he's working with, whoever the main event is, it's usually 2 out of 3 falls, which is always fun. It's a lot of fun to watch and see where they go from there. I just saw one the other day, and we might review it, is Vern Gagne against Lou Thez. And it's great because Gagne is a young man, and it's a really solid match. But that being said, it's this one, of course, because Haystacks is a big old boy. You're not going to make it a 2 out of 3 falls. You're just going to have a 1 fall to a finish, and they made it so. That's realistic. They're going with a realistic approach. Even in the main event, like even before this thing starts, you can tell that they put a lot of effort into pro wrestling the way it should be. They know that, and the fans know, realistically, Haystacks is not going to go 2 out of 3 falls for 60 minutes. Yeah. This is one of those kind of like a sideshow kind of deal.
Yeah. You know what I like about this, to add to the drama, is that argument about getting the, I don't know if they sent him away from ringside or whatever, but was it Buddy Rogers' manager? There's this argument about him being around the ring. And that just, to me, it makes it seem more real. It reminded me of, I don't know if you remember Mayweather and Canelo Alvarez, when they had that argument about the horsehair gloves before their match. It like with sports, anything that adds to the drama, it elevates the excitement about it and the intensity. And that seems to me what happened right there.
Most definitely. And that's such a great part. Another part, as we're getting going here, they're starting to move around a bit. If you notice, Haystacks, for a really big man, like, that's a really big dude. He can move. Do you notice that, Scott? When he moves around the ring, he did he came out stepping sideways, a sideways kind of step. How awesome is that dude? For being that size and being that limp, like that good on his feet, like that loose and that airy on his feet, is unbelievable for that guy that size.
Yeah.
Of course, we're going to get we've got into that lockup. Buddy Rogers gets back to the ropes. Gives him that sweet uppercut. Buddy Rogers is known for a really tight uppercut. It was a really nice uppercut. A little bit, we flashed a little bit further on. Buddy Rogers goes to really show how big Haystacks is. He goes for a headlock takeover. It used to be a real throw back in the day. And of course, Haystacks ain't budging, and then he freaks out. And now we're at the spot now where Haystacks grabs a headlock. He holds on to this headlock. I want people to watch the fans as he sends Haystacks, because he'll do it more than once. He'll send him off the ropes, and he's going to hold on to his skull. First of all, watch how Buddy Rogers lets his legs go up in the air. He doesn't hold on to his feet. He doesn't just truck along. He really makes the most out of every movement that they make, which is great, because you're not going to do a ton with Haystacks. But he'll constantly do this as well. He'll constantly choke him, poke at his eyes. He'll pull his hair. He's a true heel. Now he's going to back him up the ropes. Watch this as he holds on. See, he lets Haystacks carry him. He legitimately lets the big man pull him across the ring. And the fans, if you watch the crowd, love this stuff. They love it. Another thing to add to, Scott, is back in the day, they tried to wrestle more and more, and it was kind of like a faux pas thing to use the ropes to break. So even with Buddy Rogers up against the ropes, they don't use the ropes that often. And you're going to notice that too in a lot of these matches. If you watch this Wrestling from Chicago archive stuff, they're not going to use those ropes a lot, because even as a bad guy or a good guy, using the ropes is something that you don't want to do. You don't want to use those ropes as much as people do, because you're breaking momentum. And they already start slow and they build up. They don't need to break that momentum and start slower. So that's kind of the reason why.
Makes sense.
Nice little back in the corner and step shot on his bare feet, right? Then this is what it's going to be. You're going to see this a lot. And it's really great to watch. This is like a real classic one too, where Buddy Rogers looks like he's getting his hair pulled. But in reality, what he's doing, he's choking Haystacks out. And a lot of people won't notice that the first go around. They're like, why? Why is his arm up in the air? And all it is he's distracting the referee so that he could get a choke on him. And he chokes Haystacks down, so Haystacks is down to a knee, which is better for him, because now he can work the guy that big, that size, because he has leverage now. It also puts in the fact that he's not going to make that referee look like a chump. And a lot of times in this day and age, we make the referee, we make him non-existent, we make him non-authoritative, and we make him look like garbage. And if this was a real contest anywhere else in the world, if you did this much, you would be disqualified, or you'd have points taken away in boxing. MMA, you might lose points. You might actually lose the whole match just on not listening or obeying the referee's orders. So you're going to see this a lot in this match, where Buddy is going to use the referee and distract the referee and move around out of his line of vision and actually wrestle the way you should as a heel, as being sneaky. It's not right in front of everybody so deliberately, especially in front of the referee. I love that spot too, by the way. He gives him a couple uppercuts in the gut. And then, of course, he's just going to jump around and grab that chin lock again.
Yeah, every time the referee can't see, he cheats.
Every time, Scott, every time. And that's the thing. Buddy Rogers is like so good. And the best part is this is all call in ring. They talk nonstop in ring. Even there, even the Haystack tactics, if they're being done to you long enough, you're going to get frustrated and do it back. Yeah. And yet the referee sees it openly and, of course, breaks it. That actually adds to the fact of how sneaky Buddy Rogers is. And that just adds to the drama of, like, him eventually getting caught. Oh, sweet. We had an outside top wrist lock. And, of course, he jams his thumb in the eye. The referee admonishes him for it. Haystacks can't see. The fans are going nuts. I love this stuff, by the way. I'm loving him. Jenkins, he got him again. I'm sure. I don't know. Like, I got it muted right now, but that's how the commentary is here. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the commentary is amazing. When he was talking about what he eats for breakfast and stuff like that, oh, that killed me.
Oh, it's great. It's great. I love it. There we go. A little bit of a shine by Haystacks. He's using his size. Buddy Rogers is going to make sure that his size is used correctly, and that's Rogers' job. So, like, he doesn't move Haystacks around. He bounces off of them. So he comes in with a tackle after that Beal, and he flies off of him. And then he comes up and takes a scoop slam. And look at him. Look at him. He took those bonsai-style sit-outs on his guts, and he's selling, man. And I'm telling you, these fans are getting riled up because this is where using the ropes is more effective and more profound. He didn't use it right away because then that loses its drama later on, as they are right now, using the ropes, where he won't get up. He won't get up and fight. And people are all both mad. Some are loving it because, like, Buddy Rogers is going to get it today. You look at that chicken. Look at that weenie.
Yeah.
It's just I can watch, and I've, like, admittedly so, I've watched a lot of these because I've subscribed to this channel. I've been watching a lot of this stuff. Just because I say it all the time, and I'll tell you again, I'll repeat it over and over again. What's old is new. Instead of trying to figure out a new way to do a back suplex, you really don't have to change the wheel. It's still good. You know, let's change what we do into the back suplex or something else that has been done in the past, because these guys have done it right.
Yeah, they did something right. These guys at this time, I mean, from what I understand, they were rock stars. I mean, they were up amongst the highest paid, if not the highest paid athletes in any sport at these times, the top guys.
They were making money. And of course, it's very back and forth. It's very busy. This match is very busy. This is a good contest to show.
Oh,
Beautiful splash. And of course, there it is again. There's the reason why you use the ropes. You don't have to use the ropes all the time. But he's crushing them, man. He's crushing them in the corners. He's, like, actually bumping them. He hits them with that nice little, where he has that, he's pulling his hair and stuff, and he gives him the old slap of the knuckles into that elbow. And he sells, like, the selling of this stuff is so good because they give each other time to sell. It's not over the top. I love this spot, by the way. I love this slamming his head off the back corner because the way Buddy Rogers there he goes. He sells out of there. It's so good.
There's no turnbuckle pads on these bad boys.
Oh, me and Ethan have talked about that too at length. I'm like, my God, that must have been a tough ring because there's no movement in that mat, that canvas, and there is nothing on those turnbuckles.
I don't think you have the audio up for the announcers, but he got confused. He missed the leg on the rope there. He thought that there was a fall in that when Buddy put his leg on the rope. It confused him. He had to try and say that he thought it might be a two falls out of three. That he finally figured it out.
Boom. And there it is. And, like, I'm telling you look at the fans. Look at the fans. I want you to watch the fans right now. We'll discuss this in a second, but this match is so quick and so high paced at the end of it. And it's busy. Look, those are like security. I don't know if they're security. I don't know if they're police officers. They're just checking on Haystacks right now, who takes the most insanely crazy bump for a big man out of that ring by breaking the rope. We've discussed this at many, many times over as well. we're not real sure. We're not sure if he actually meant to break the rope because of the way he bumped out of there. I think the idea was he's supposed to take that bump to the outside, using that second rope as like a pivot point, as the big guys can do, but it actually snaps, comes unhinged, and of course he flies out of that ring. But like, talk about just, that's action packed. Like they go back into the same spot that they did earlier where he goes for the tackle, but this time Haystacks grabs him in a bear hug. It's a great bear hug. And then he jams him in the eye again, which is a heelish move. He comes off that, drop kicks him in the back of the head. And that drop kick was solid, by the way. Haystacks eats that corner, comes out and selling, and takes another drop kick. Second drop kick takes him out of the ring. Boom. And that right there is the finish. That's the 10 count, and they finish up right there. I have watched that match now, not just because of this, but I've watched that match now a couple times. Like I would say 4 times, and then a 5th time yesterday. So 6 altogether. And every time I watch it, I'm kind of enthralled by it because it's not very long. It's 13 minutes. It's not even 13 minutes of work. It's about 10 minutes of actual work, but they're so busy and they're selling so well, and it moves so nicely. You get lost in that match. That's a great match. And like, to me, even though it's in black and white, and even though there isn't a whole bunch of costumes or colorful contacts or face paint or streamers coming out someone's ass, that's a great match.
Yeah.
And to me, that's in the 60s. That's a long time ago. That's 60 years ago. That thing still holds up. Still holds up.
Yeah. And a great way to finish it. I don't imagine they've got any padding outside of that ring. He probably fell right onto concrete, is my guess there. Oh
yeah, there wouldn't be any padding, because we've talked about we've had conversations where where promoters wouldn't use, when we're talking the 80s, wouldn't use padding around the ring because he didn't want his wrestlers to not look tough.
Yeah.
The idea is you want to look as tough and mean as possible. It's astounding how far we've come, because I know from a personal experience of working for WWE, the padding on the outside and the guardrails being all padded is like a friggin' funhouse. It's almost easier to bump on the floor out there than it is some independent rings at your local indie shows. So some of these rings are so reinforced and old or just banged up or whatever. They're hard to bump in, but then you'll bump on the floor at WWE with no issues whatsoever. The padding is so wonderful. It's just so funny how we've come completely a different way.
Yep. It probably a little nicer for the guys working out there, but from a reality-based perspective, a little tricky.
A little tricky, to say the least.
Yeah. All right. That was an awesome match. Anything else to mention about that before we move on? That was, like I said, that ending was just perfect. It ends with a drop kick through the ropes and count out. Like, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It makes perfect sense.
Perfect sense, because if the big guy, you want to keep the big guy strong for later on for different attractions, especially because he's such a massive human being, and keep it legitimate. Buddy Rogers is giving up hundreds of pounds to Haystack. So it's one of those matches where if you did something like that, if Buddy Rogers beats him in the ring, of course Buddy Rogers is strong. He's got the championship. He's a champion. But it doesn't add anything to the worth of Haystacks. But having Haystacks fall out of the ring, being that massive, and then suffering a 10 count loss is totally different than pinning his shoulders to the mat 1, 2, 3. So it's in contrast, it's the best way to do it. And the thing about it is that match right now, if you watch that match, and I've been at this business a long, long time, unless somebody tells you, if someone's wised you up, you wouldn't know if that was the real finish, or if they had more planned, or if the ring was supposed to break, or if he was supposed to tumble out at all. We don't know. You wouldn't know if someone didn't tell you. And that, everybody, is pro wrestling at its finest.
Yeah. And like the story of that would have spread like crazy for people who were in the crowd live. Just imagine they would have been telling all their friends, "You won't believe this. The ring broke. The guy broke the rope. Blah blah blah." That kind of stuff spreads like wildfire. All right. So we're gonna do a double shot today, by the sounds of it.
You know what? I thought about it too. I thought today is a good day because it's only about 13 minutes, 30 seconds or whatever of our first match. I thought, why not do two? Let's do one in contrast. So I thought, let's do another David versus Goliath style match, and let's see how it presents itself a little bit later on in life. Being 36 years to the day, it would be Yokozuna versus Shawn Michaels. This is for Raw in '96. So this is the year I graduated from high school and then went on to become a professional wrestler myself. So this match here is a Raw match. You got some backstory on this one too, Scott, which I didn't know. I didn't know at the time, but you kind of did your homework on this one. What's the deal with this one again?
Yokozuna's run in the WWF at this time. He started, I believe, in '93, and we're into '96 now. He was right at the end of his run, and most of this I lifted from the Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard podcast on Yokozuna and WWF. But this was, if I'm not mistaken, his second last televised match in the WWF before he was done for good. The last time you'd see him in a WWF ring on TV was at Survivor Series of this year, which was, I believe, against Vader. This was a few months before. They, I believe, did a European tour in between that wasn't televised. So this was Yokozuna at his biggest that you would see him in WWF. He had lost a step a little bit. He was probably, early on in the early, 93, 94, the guy was probably one of the best big men I've ever seen wrestle. Guy could move like crazy, and he could have incredible matches. At this point, he was a little heavier, obviously, and, they say he wasn't moving as well. He couldn't do as much stuff. Still really impressive, but that's kind of the backstory. As he's near the end of his run with WWF, he would go on to do some independent stuff throughout the years after that, but you wouldn't see him on WWF TV after Survivor Series '96. And this is about a month and a half, 2 months before that. Did you ever see the man in person? I know he was before your time in the WWE, but were you ever in the presence of Yokozuna?
No, there's a few guys that I've missed on my way into pro wrestling. I never got the chance to meet Yoko. Another couple of ones to add to the list. I never got the chance to meet Andre, Owen Hart, or Macho Man, which is a shame because those guys are definitely some of the greatest names in pro wrestling and will go down as absolute stars of the game forever, right?
Yeah.
But I that's the thing is I've missed a few guys along the way through Owen's tragedy, and then of course Yoko, Andre, and Macho. Just the ticker went. They just they passed away before I got my chance to meet them. Even in passing, I've met a lot of guys. Like I've met everybody in the business. So it's funny that like there's some guys that you just because of they're just gone too soon in life that you don't get to meet them, right? Because Andre the Giant was only in his 40s. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. But he's so big and such a massive human being that that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I actually, kind of a side story, when I was 13 years old, 1995, about a year before this match, I was in the front row, Moncton Coliseum, Moncton, New Brunswick. It was Yokozuna and Owen Hart were in the main event against Shawn Michaels and Lex Luger. And, imagine being 13 and seeing Yokozuna up close. Like, the guy was massive.
That's crazy.
It doesn't do him any justice what you see on TV or anything like that. Like, the guy was just... It was insane to see him up close and touch him as he went by. But that's just my little personal story to crowbar in there.
Scott, I got one for you. Moncton Coliseum, my first ever WWF show at 12 years old at Moncton Coliseum was Andre the Giant versus Jake Roberts, the Brainbusters versus the Rockers.
Oh.
Yeah, and who I know Blue Blazer. So Owen Hart was there as the Blue Blazer, and I remember, of course, Brainbusters, Tully and Arn versus the Rockers stole the show.
Yeah,
unbelievable wrestling. But the attraction was definitely watching Jake Roberts versus Andre the Giant. That, of course, Andre having the phobia of the snake. They played that angle off. Of course, Damien came to the ring, or like he got Damien out of the bag, and then Andre suffered a count-out loss because he wouldn't get in the ring. But that was basically it. Should have been a DQ, really, if you think about it. Logistically speaking.
That's right.
It's kind of a foreign object, Jake Roberts. But, you know, I want to send those Moncton people home happy. So that was my very first ever WWF show from back out east at home.
Right on. Good old Moncton Coliseum.
Moncton Coliseum, baby.
Right. All right. So the second match we're going to watch, if you want to get lined up and watch along, it's on YouTube at the moment. It's WWE Archives is the name of the channel. I don't believe it's affiliated with the WWE, so don't spread that too far and wide, or it might be gone. It's called Yokozuna versus Shawn Michaels, Raw, 1908-96 full match. It is 8 minutes and 5 seconds. So just a short, quick one here. Give everyone a couple seconds to line it up and go ahead.
Now, Scotty, I put it at a minute 30 because now you're just going to go through a lot of, like, you can go back and watch it, but I fast forwarded it. If guys, you can fast forward it just a little bit because it's going to be a lot of Yoko's entrance takes forever. And then there's a whole promo by Jim Cornette off the hop, which, like, it's 8 minutes, but it's not really 8 minutes. This match is only about 6 minutes long. So I just fast forwarded. I'm at a minute 30.
Okay, perfect. I'm there too. If you can see the screen at 1 minute 30, it's like Yokozuna standing over top of Stone Cold Steve Austin from the night before, which was SummerSlam, I believe.
And which is a great spot, by the way. What a great way to finish that match.
Yeah. Okay. So if everyone's got it lined up, let's get her going. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play.
The best part of that match, too, since we're here, we might as well discuss it, is that whole spot with Austin and Yoko. He didn't bump Yoko. He left Yoko being a big guy. Yokozuna is a giant human being, and he's Samoan in descent. And like they're known as the toughest human beings on the planet, and you can't tell me otherwise. Talk to Ming about it; he'll tell you what's up. So Austin's match with him is absolutely perfect. He uses speed. He gets on him. Yoko eventually, when he catches him, just squashes him, pulls him over the corner, goes to the top like he's going to give him that bonsai drop. The ring breaks, the rope breaks like he did in that Haystacks match, which is quite wild that we're actually watching this one. What a weird pick. I didn't even foreshadow that.
Yeah.
And then the ring breaks, and then, of course, that was his demise. 1, 2, 3, in ring.
It makes sense. I never really – go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I hadn't thought about it until you mentioned that. It's a good way, having the ring break, to have a big guy lose or lose his advantage anyway. These two cases, they actually lost. Because of that, it's a ring malfunction. It's not really – it doesn't make them look bad because if the ring didn't malfunction, who knows what would have happened.
That's such a great point. As the thing that makes them stand out and gives them the advantage is also the thing that is a disadvantage at the end of the day, right? And that's a great story in itself. That's great because that's your whatever makes you strong also makes you very weak. And that's good stuff. This is, of course, when Shawn is babyface, doing like the stripper kind of gear, I guess, with Jose Lothario, who is the guy that actually trained him. So the guy outside is Jose Lothario, who's a great, accomplished professional wrestler. Here we go. Great lockup, by the way. Just a great lockup. He shucks him off like he's nothing. Nice bump by Michaels. Into the headlock, into shooting him off. So basically the same way that Buddy Rogers and Haystacks start out their match, and it doesn't look repetitive. It looks completely different, where Haystacks and Buddy took their time. These guys are a little bit more explosive. They're moving around a bit. This is like 30 years difference, right? And this shows a little bit more action-packed stuff. There are going to be things that I'm going to tell you in this match that are positive, and there's going to be things in this thing that I'm going to say are negative. Here we go. Nice. Michaels is such an athlete. This baseball slide is the best.
Yeah.
What a great baseball slide. Nice duck under, baseball slide. Gets him punching. He reels him with some punches. This is what I hate about this match right here. This is what I hate, is he's just going to throw. He's got, like, Michaels has got tremendous punches. I'm not a fan of the wobbly sell. I'm not a big fan of the cartoony over-the-top sell. And I'm not a fan of taking the big guy off his feet in like 2 minutes of work. To me, that's the story in itself is trying to get the big guy off his feet, trying to find a way to get nearly I don't even know how much he weighs at the time here, Scott, but like that much weight to knock him off his feet with just doing a couple single right hand punches.
Yeah.
It doesn't add anything. Another thing I don't like is he knocks him off his feet and he doesn't go on him. He doesn't capitalize on nothing. He just is over there with the fans chanting away.
Yeah.
We don't see what happens there because Jim Cornette, of course, blocks him. I do, however, love that Michaels tried to go for a headbutt. He no-sells at Yoko, but then Michaels is selling it like it was like a brick. He headbutt a brick wall and then bumps on the second headbutt that Yoko throws. So I did enjoy that. But that's the thing. I'm all about, if a big guy's a big guy, leave him big.
And the camera missed the racket attack almost there.
Yeah, it does. And there's Yoko going down again. He has to go down because, of course, Michaels has to chase away Jim Cornette. Like, I don't understand the backstory of this one because I'm not really up to date on, like, you won't find me doing much of the history involved in storylines. I'm all about the wrestling part of it. So that being said, he comes out, he attacks Jose and then gets run off. And then, of course, this sweet belly to belly is so awesome. And that right there should be a finish. There's two things here. Of course, I'm going to take my time as well. If I give somebody of that size, you give him a great splash, I would understand, like that belly to belly, taking your time, not pinning him, because when he kicks out, you look like a chump. I do not, however, like running the ropes 3 friggin' times and kipping up after the fact and then go to the top rope and give that sweet elbow drop after you just took that belly to belly. Oh, actually, it's a splash.
The splash,
his patented elbow drop, but it's not.
I thought it was too.
Here he goes, going to tease the sweet chin music, as he's known for. He's tuning up the band, as they used to say. Comes in with a kick. Of course, it's caught. It's a little too early. Into the sweet fallback suplex, which is nice. Fallaway suplex. Great. Like, Yoko, for the size he is, let's appreciate the man and give him credit. That man, that's a huge dude. And to control his weight that well, that's an athlete. Of course, he misses the leg drop, which is kind of repetitive because they just missed the splash. Super kick happens. So it's a little dip. The idea of that follow-away slam is just a dip. And it's basically just a one dip so that it looks like something. And there's Michaels in under 5 minutes beating a giant, like a giant human being. So that's that. That's that for that match. Okay, yep. So if I'm going to break that apart, and like you can, if you're listening to this thing, you can argue with me like, oh, it's Shawn Michaels, he's a legend. Who are you? That's, just walk on then. Just walk off because like I don't need you. But here's the deal. Here's the deal, guys. If we keep going this way, because this is 30 years later after Buddy Rogers and Haystacks Calhoun. This is 30 years later, and now let's fast forward from 96 to present day. How much of a decline we're at again? So we're going so far away from what reality based and selling and all this stuff. And Michaels was a tremendous seller, and could be a great seller and could be an excellent storyteller, but in some regards, whatever personal demons at the time or whatever, just chose not to. But I was talking to you, Scott, about this before. Bret Hart versus Yokozuna is way more exciting, way more of a competitive contest, and I enjoy that match way more. I was more of a Bret Hart guy, I know, admittedly so. But this isn't slighting Michaels in any way, shape, or form, because I really enjoyed Michaels' work as well, because I'm a fan of pro wrestling more so than just the individuals. But Bret Hart would keep that competitive and would never knock him off his feet. When Bret Hart finally knocked Yokozuna off his feet, the reaction difference between just punching him in the head and having him fall over and Bret Hart making it count is completely night and day different. Night and day different, the reaction the people have, because he actually built a story and built something behind it. He built some drama, which in this match is just a popcorn match, which is quite a shame considering the size that Yoko was and the amount that man could work and how athletic he was and how athletic Michaels was. It's kind of disappointing to go back and watch it, being seasoned as I am and being older as I am, and seeing how things should have played out and how things did play out. Because if you ask me, after that belly to belly, you should almost be dead. You shouldn't be hitting the ropes 3 times. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be like, that's just me though. Like, I don't feel as though you should be hitting the ropes 3 times. And then he takes that sweet fall away slam and then just gets up and kicks him. It's, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way I look at things. I like things to look like it has a little bit more of and like things have, if you didn't want to if you wanted to do it your spot, let's figure out a different way to get into it. It was almost like it's a good match, but it feels as though it's almost like a phone-in match, because those guys are so capable of doing amazing stuff. And they could do it's probably because of the time. No, it's not because of the time. These dudes are pros and have been at it a long time. It's almost like it's a phone-it-in match to me. So I'll take that Buddy Rogers Haystacks Calhoun match 10 times out of 10 over that smaller match, the Yoko Michaels match. There's been a lot of great matches that Michaels has with guys like big men, Undertaker being one of the greatest matches ever at WrestleMania. So like, it's not saying that he's not good. It's not me saying he's not good. I just feel as though that match was very much phoned it in. Scott?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting perspective. Makes sense. The story could have been told probably a little better. Like you said, Bret would make Yokozuna or the big guys seem unbeatable for the first quarter, half of the match, until he finally found a way through being creative or outsmarting them or something, exploiting a weakness where he could finally cut him down to size, and then his talent would kind of finally overcome. But I don't know the full backstory on it. I don't know what was going on storyline wise either. Seemed like the Cornette thing was a little odd. I don't know if they're trying to reunite him with Yoko at that time, how that was going down, but I would agree with what you said 100%. I'm going to switch gears for a second here off the top of my head. I know you're a big gear guy. Can we talk about boots for a second?
Yes, let's do it.
Shawn Michaels boots, his those motocross style boots.
Yes.
Fan or not a fan?
Not a fan. Absolutely not a fan.
What it made me think of, I'll just give you my perspective, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about it, because you're so into gear. It's a really interesting perspective. But to me, anytime, and I was a huge Michaels guy at this time. I loved Michaels growing up. Michaels and Bret Hart were my 2 guys. But those motocross boots, to me, seemed, because I rode a motorbike. I knew what they were like. They're heavy. And to me, that would make you slower. So and he was super fast, obviously, and could do anything in the ring. But it just psychologically, I was like, man, I know those are weighing you down a little bit. And then anybody after that who wore those boots, Billy Gunn, whoever, I was like, man, why would you wear a boot that's going to make you slower? But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, my thought is this, and I've been at this game a very, very long time, and I've bought a ton of gear. I've always been a huge nut into wrestling clothes, attire, boots, kick pads, all the stuff. Like, and I've tried every look under the sun. That being said, I'm not a fan of indie, not indie, but like if you're a professional wrestler, I always feel as though you have to look like a professional wrestler. If somebody can go to a motocross store and pick up a pair of boots and start wrestling in a pair of boots that you can't get custom made, like wrestling boots are made custom by like people. Like there are people out there, talented people that make my trunks, make my knee pads. I don't buy them when I first started, there was nobody making it, so we had to wear Nike knee pads. But as soon as we found people to make custom gear, we got custom gear. So volleyball knee pads, no thank you. Motocross boots, no thank you. Running shoes, like they wear a lot of high tops, Air Jordans. That's kind of a lot of guys go like, this is my style. This is my look. It's not for me. It's not for me because I'm a fan of a traditional look, and I don't want people thinking that they can go out and just copycat it by like going out at Halloween and just picking up bits and pieces everywhere and making themselves into somebody. I feel as though you want to be a big star, to be somebody that's on a different level, almost untouchable. I always talk about the kids about this. You want to be a star. You want to be untouchable. You don't want people ever thinking they could be you. You know what I mean? You want to have proper stuff, you know, and that's the thing. I like Superman and Batman didn't wear combat boots and friggin' Nike runners. Do you know what I mean? The illusion is you're a larger than life. You're a superhero, a supervillain. Your gear should match. And that's the one thing. Although I will say that Michael's long tights back in the day, more so than those pleathery pants, but those long tights, I friggin' love them. The Heartbreak ones are really solid. There's one pair that he wore, and he only wore it maybe twice, the DX ones, where it was all black and it had that lime green heart, and then, or DX X's, or that's what it was, DX X's, D-Generation X, and it was so sweet. It was mint stuff, and that was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
But not a fan of the boots.
Yeah, overall, I loved his look, and the gear was always top notch, but those boots always just bugged me for some reason. I thought I'd mention it, see what you thought about them. Anything else to say about Michaels Yokozuna before we move on?
No, I'm sure I'll catch heat on this one. I'm sure people are going to, because there's a lot of people out there that are massive Michaels fans, and I was a Michaels fan and still am. I do enjoy a lot of his stuff, but that's not me backtracking either, by the way. If you have a problem with it, then just have at her. But in that match itself, and like nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect at this pro wrestling game. But like you could just tell the difference between someone like Steve Austin the night before. You know how Steve Austin took his game so serious, and the same with Bret Hart. They were two peas in a pod. They just took it seriously every night. Like to call a match with Bret in the back took longer than most because he actually would sit there and think about it. He wouldn't just throw it together. Like he actually put a lot of time, effort, and thought into his stuff to make his brand as solid and serious as possible. Mm-hmm. And Austin's the same way. So I don't know. Just one of those things.
Yeah. Right on. Good combination of matches there. Interesting to see the contrast in styles and also eras. We're talking, 30, 40 years apart. Some similarities, some differences, really cool stuff. Do you have a question of the show? I forgot one last time. I've made a note to myself. To make sure that we ask one this time. Do you have anything ready, or should I come up with something off the top of my head?
You know what? Let's go with the one. What's your favorite big guy match?
That's a good one.
Let's go David and Goliath. What's your favorite big guy versus little guy match. You can have Brock Lesnar against basically anybody because he's such a giant and so real. You can have anybody against Michaels because Michaels usually was a smaller guy. It's all yours. I'll say right now, I'll tell you right off the top of my head, one of my very favorite matches of all time is I do believe it's King of the Ring. It's Bret Hart and Bam Bam Bigelow. So big guy versus little guy, and that one is top notch stuff. So let me know. Let us know, Scott. Do you have anything off the top of your head?
David Goliath. Not off the top of my head. Stumped me on that one. I wasn't ready to answer. Don't have anything. Not going to make anything up right now off the top of my head.
Really?
No.
Okay.
No. I was big. I liked Yokozuna all throughout his run, so it'll probably be something in there. And another thing noteworthy, when we were talking about in episode, I believe number 2, about Kamala and best gimmicks of all time, Yokozuna slipped my mind at that time as one of the top gimmicks of all time. Like, that was a pure gimmick play from the start. Obviously, he wasn't even Japanese. Never went out of character. He did start speaking English at one point for a short period of time, but he was still Yokozuna and stayed in character. But like, where do you think Yoko fits all-time gimmick guys?
Oh man, Yoko is so far up the scale of just being just so good and such a representation of the Samoan families. And then, but still having the ability to pull off the Japanese style and have Mr. Fuji as manager. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I wish we could have. I wish he was still around. I wish that his heart hadn't stopped. Because I think had he lost a little bit of weight, maybe, I don't know. This is only hindsight. But, like, if he only had a little bit more of a run, say he did indies and then came back, like, what would Yokozuna do nowadays? In this day and age would just be absolute gold, because the amount of kids that would bounce off of him would be phenomenal. So,
bigger.
I really do enjoy a Yokozuna. I do enjoy a lot of Yokozuna matches, too. They're solid.
Yep. Really good stuff. All right. Well, I believe that will do it for this episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We really appreciate it. Any questions, comments, feedback, leave them down below. If you're listening on YouTube, question of the day answers, best David and Goliath or favorite David and Goliath match. You can leave that down below as well. We'd appreciate to hear from you. If you're listening on a podcast network, you can send questions, comments, feedback directly to Tyson on Twitter at Tyson Dux. You can also send them to @hammerlockpod or email them to hammerlockpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, we'll catch you later.